everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my May reading wrap up. I think I'm going to actually split this into two videos because I actually read a lot that month. Whenever I read a lot in a month, I always dread filming the reading wrap up because I just hate editing that video. I don't like editing long videos. But let's see how I feel. Alright, so the first thing that I read for the month of May was Simon's Cat by Simon Toefield. This is a graphic novel based on the YouTube series. This was actually more just a collection of photographs than a graphic novel, because in the YouTube series, Simon's cat doesn't speak. It just makes these meowing noises. And because he doesn't speak, there's nothing for this cat to say in the graphic novel. So it's just really a series of photographs. Very cute, but not what I was expecting. Honestly, don't know what I was expecting for this. But it's a collection of these comics based on this YouTube series, and I freaking love the YouTube channel. I'm subscribed, I have my notification bell. I'm ready to watch this video once it's out. But because he's not moving, Simon's cat kind of like lost his charm in 2D format. I mean, he's 2D in the YouTube series. You know what I mean. It's like, because he's not moving, it's just a very still photograph, he kind of loses his charm. So I didn't love this as much as the YouTube series. Some of these were still very endearing and very funny. I think once or twice I even chuckled. So overall, I rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next thing that I read for May is Moonstruck Volume 1, A Magic to Brew. I actually did a review for this book a while ago, kind of like shortly after I read this. So if you want to know my thoughts about this, you should check out that video. I loved this. I thought it was very cute. It has LGBT rep. I don't know if it's own voices, but it was a combination of the real world with the fantasy world, which I thought was very cool. So I rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. For the third thing that I read for the month of May was The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. The story followed this young man who's part of a very affluent family, and it's right before him going on, I guess, the trip that all boys take, like the year of just exploring the world. What is it called? Did I write that down? Alright, so our main character is Henry, but he's actually goes by Monty, and he is a gentleman. He's been bred to be a gentleman, and grand tour, thank you. Thanks, Goodreads. And he leaves to go on his grand tour of Europe. He leaves with his best friend, and his sister tags along because she's actually supposed to be dropped off at a boarding school while they're en route for this grand tour. Monty's bisexual, and he has this giant crush on his best friend. But this tour actually goes awry when he pickpockets something at a party, and it turns out to be something really important. And so they are chased over Europe for this little box. It was a really fun read. There was a lot of adventure, and I did root for Monty and the best friend. Like, I really wanted them to get together. What is his best friend's name? Did I write that down? You know, let's just check Goodreads. Goodreads, can you help me again? Percy. His name is Percy. Thanks, Goodreads. I really wanted them to get together, and the sad moments were really sad, and the funny moments were genuinely funny. This was well written on Mackenzie Lee's part. But I did have some issues with the story. I liked how the story resolved, but I didn't necessarily like how the story took its path to get there. Like, there were certain things that I feel like Monty could have done. So I wasn't quite satisfied with how everything turned out, but I did enjoy this story, and I rated this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. The next thing that I read in May was The Fifth Season by N.K. Then by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book in a series. This takes place in a world where there's normal people, and then there's people who have ability to, I guess, use rock magic. I think that's the word I want to use. They have the ability to sense fault lines. Like, a lot of their power stems from being able to just calm or uproot, I guess, the rocks around them. But these people that have these abilities are seen as monsters. So if they get caught and they survive, they're actually supposed to join this academy and be servants to the Empire. But most of the time they are killed. And the story follows this woman who survives but was not forced into this academy. And there's other characters too that have this ability, but it really focuses on this woman. Her husband discovers what she is, and he murders their son but kidnaps their daughter, and so she has to follow the husband and try to rescue her daughter. And at the same time that all of this is happening, this like overall prophecies is occurring. Like it seems to be the end of times. So this is just this other giant thing that's happening within the story. Of how the story starts, it actually took me a while to really get into the story. It was a bit of a slow beginning for me. But once I got into it, once I finally got into it, man, was I into it. I didn't really explain this, but there are 3 storylines in the story. There are 3 separate storylines happening in this story. And they all seem to be interconnected, and they were weaved beautifully throughout. It like really worked. The connection to all these 3 storylines was actually a big plot reveal at the end, and I was not expecting it. It was quite the plot twist. I was blown away by it. Jemison's skill in interweaving these storylines was just completely... I don't know how to compliment this woman. This was amazing. Even though I enjoyed the story and it did take me a little bit to get into the story, I ended up rating this 4.5 stars out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Now, the next thing that I read for the month of May was something that I received in the mail for an honest review. It was a quick and easy guide to they, them pronouns by Archie Bongiovanni and Tristan Jimerson. This was just to try to get the word out that this book existed, and I read it. I posted about it on Instagram, and now I'm talking about it here. It was this really, it's a really slim book. I have it somewhere. I didn't pull it out for this video. But the title pretty much explains what it is. It's a really short, easy guide to they, them pronouns. This guide was told in graphic novel format. A lot of the stuff in the book I already knew, but I did learn a couple of things. Like, I actually didn't know that people would go by their name as their gender. That was actually really interesting to me. And now, of course, I want to bear that in mind when someone tells me what their pronouns are. Because this was a really quick and fast way to just be introduced to the subject, the authors did leave a list of resources at the back, so you could actually get, do more research on the subject, which I really appreciated. I ended up rating this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Alright, so I have 3 more books. I think I'm just going to finish it in this video. I lied about the 2 videos. Not going to do it. So the next thing that I read for the month of May is a graphic novel, Scooby Apocalypse Volume 1. It's basically, it's Scooby and the Scooby Gang, but told in a zombie apocalypse sort of storyline, which was cool. The artwork was also very cool, but a lot of the characters didn't quite sit right with me. Like in this story, it actually focused more, instead of the world building, which I feel like it should have focused on, it actually focused on the relationship between Velma and Daphne. Velma was actually part of the organization that actually released this virus, and Daphne is a journalist, and Daphne is giving all sorts of crap to Velma. Although it was deserved, I feel like the story focused too much on that and not on everything else that was happening. So I wish it did focus on other things. So I did end up rating this 3 out of 5 stars because of that. It was interesting how Scooby and the Scooby Gang, they were all meeting each other for the first time in this one. Like, Daphne was a journalist, Fred was her camera guy, Velma's a scientist, Shaggy was an intern at this science facility, not an intern, but he worked with the dogs, and the dogs were given smart dog chips in order to be able to speak and show high intelligence, and Scooby was the dog that got one of the first chips, and he couldn't actually get over the language barrier, which is why he has the ruh-roh sort of language, which was, I liked how they explained that, but like I said, it focused more on the butting heads between Velma and Daphne, and I wish it showed more of each character in this graphic novel. I just realized now that the reason why I read so much in May is because they were all pretty much graphic novels, which is not a problem for me. The next thing that I did read in May is Pashmina by Nidhi Shinani. Priyanka is our main character, and she's raised by her single mother, and Priyanka wants to know more about her father and how she came to be, and she takes a trip to India to discover that. Now the title is actually about this magic Pashmina. I guess the magic of this Pashmina is like a woman puts it on, and then if she is dealing with a difficult choice, the Pashmina will show her what path that she needs to take. And the Pashmina has showed Priyanka that she needed to go to India to figure out her past. Now this was beautifully illustrated. I loved the colors. I loved how it was like black and white while she wasn't wearing the Pashmina, but full of color when she was wearing the Pashmina. That was a cool touch. But I feel like the story itself could have used more work. Like, I wish I knew more backstory about the Pashmina, because I feel like learning about the Pashmina and what it did and how it came to be was really rushed. So I feel like that could have been fleshed out better, but overall this was a great story. I ended up rating this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Now the last thing that I read for the month of May is Where the Wild Things Lie by Marie Sendak. I'm actually trying to do the Read Harder challenge that Book Riot is doing, and one of the challenges is to read a children's book published before a certain year. I forget what year it was. But for each challenge, the Book Riot community, like I guess the editors, gave examples for each one, and this was one of the examples for this particular challenge. And I was at the library, I saw it, I'm like, no, let's just crank this out right now. So I sat at the library and read this. I did not read this as a child, so I did not have any of the nostalgia factor involved. The story is about a boy who's misbehaving, so he gets sent to bed without dinner, and his dreamland state took him to a land of monsters, or wild things, excuse me. And the boy eventually becomes the king of the wild things, and as much as he's having a great time, he misses home and eventually comes home. The overall book and the illustrations, it's very cute, and I think it's really, really accurate in the fact that sometimes kids are just little poops. Because I really thought this kid was a little poop. And it just shows you that sometimes a kid is just going to baffle you. You don't know why they're going to behave in a certain way, they just do. So I thought that was pretty accurate. But because I didn't have any nostalgia factor to it, I didn't love it, and I ended up rating this 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. So that's it. That is everything that I read in the month of May. Obviously I had my favorites. The month started off strong with 4-star reads, but towards the end it did lag and I ended up reading quite a few 3-star reads. But overall I enjoyed a lot of these. So have you read any of these? Please feel free to talk about them down in the comments below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I guess it's ta-ta for now. Bye guys.